For centuries, we humans believed that we live in the center of this universe, until the 16th century, when Nicolas Copernicus discovered that the Sun is the center of the universe, and the Earth is revolving around it. After the scientific revolution, astrophysicists found that we live in a solar system, and this solar system is part of a galaxy that we call the Milky Way. And there are billions of other galaxies, and each galaxy has trillions of stars, and the Sun is one of the stars that will explode like any other star, and life will end on the Earth. And this universe is just one universe among other multiverses. We thought that we were the only self-conscious beings who are aware of themselves, but in the 20th century, scientists found that animals are self-conscious too, and some of the species passed the self-mirror recognition test, and there are pretty convincing arguments that some mammals and birds dream too, like humans do. So all of these discoveries made the human race realize that they are not so special as they thought they were, and their existence has no significance to this universe. The life of a human being is just a moment of self, and then back to the void, and made them ask one of the most complicated questions about their existence, which is, what is the meaning of life? When I asked myself this question, I wanted to get through the bottom of the question, to find an answer by reading one of the best books that I have ever read in my life. The name of the book is Man's Search for Meaning by the psychiatrist Viktor Frankl. The book tells his story in the concentration camp in Auschwitz during World War II. His parents, brother, and wife were all killed. He had to work until the verge of dying. He wasn't given enough food or water. He had to go through terrible conditions, hunger, pain, and torture. People around him were executed for no reason, and the few who remained alive died of starvation. In these conditions, how could he find that life is worth living? The answer is finding meaning in suffering, and he said, in some ways, suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds meaning. He noticed that there are two attitudes towards life and its sorrows. Those with the first attitude lose hope and blame the world for their misery. Those with the second attitude took life as a challenge and found their why to overcome their problems. As Nietzsche said, he has a why to live for, can be almost anyhow. Frankl survived the experience of the concentration camp because he realized that there was an important task he personally needed to complete. And this task is the completion of a manuscript he had been working on. He wanted to finish the work that he started, and that gave him meaning to survive. When we are no longer able to change the situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Frankl believed that people had the freedom to choose their reaction to difficult situations. You cannot control the outside world or the terrible things that are coming to you. When life beats you to the ground, there's nothing you can do. The only thing you can control is how to react to these tough moments. An example was given in the book. Some prisoners, despite the horrible conditions, they did not lose their generosity. They shared their bread with other prisoners. As he put this in his book, everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. We as human beings, we are overwhelmed by the suffering and the complexity of life, and we are not sure why it's reasonable to continue with it. We feel the terrible negative meaning of life, but are skeptical beyond belief about any positive meanings. Even more people today have the means to live, but no meaning to live for. The suicide rate has doubled in the last decade, even if people had more money, better health, better housing, more education, and live longer than any time in history. Aside from food, the greatest human need is meaning. We live in a world where the pursuit of pleasure is a priority. But one thing that I've noticed in this life is that there is a difference between pleasure and happiness. You can take drugs, and they will eventually give you pleasure, but they won't give you happiness. As a matter of fact, drugs increase depression. If you take a musical instrument instead, and you learn to play on it, the amount of happiness this instrument gives you is not given by any type of drugs. So at the end, don't forget to take care of yourself.